This book reads, "Behold, the plagues draw nigh, and are not slack, as when a woman with child in the ninth month bringeth forth her son, within 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment." Because pretty much the time that we're coming in, time of Jacob's trouble, the time of great persecution, all these different things are pretty much are likened onto like a woman giving birth. You know, they say a woman giving birth is like the most excruciating most excruciating thing a human being can endure. And the time of Jacob's trouble is going to be like a time like never before. You know, worse than any time ever imagined. But after that child comes forth, you know, great gladness comes. Just like when we go through this great tribulation, pretty much, we're gonna receive the kingdom. You know. Verse 39, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. Verse 40, the point, O my people, hear my word, make you ready to the battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. A pilgrim doesn't own anything. A pilgrim moves place to place. They don't have any home, just like we were once pilgrims, in the wilderness, dwelling in tents, you know, Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Tents, you know. That's one of the ways that you also realize that the Northern Kingdom, Reuben and Gad were Israelites because they lived in tents. And basically, the point of this lesson is we may very well soon be going back to that. You're seeing the persecution of the Northern Kingdom, and like the brothers always say, the prophecy shows, or history shows, first, Northern Kingdom get it, and then Judah get it worse. Or first Northern Kingdom get it, then Southern Kingdom get it worse. So I want to start off by giving all praises, all honor, and all glory to call Loyim La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Hakodash, double honors to the elders and to the apostles that told me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim, across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and freedom to do so. Now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Aquat out there listening and learning. Lord willing, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad and the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, but subscribe to this truth. To you, I say Shalom. It's Brother Yahweh Sop, and I'm coming at you with another lesson through the Spirit and through the power of Yahweh Shem Shah. This is the second time I'm doing this video. I always was allowed to say, but no, I think this information need to come out because, again, it's showing you of the times we're living in. So I'm gonna say fair use, fair use. I'm not profiting off of this. I'm just about to marry some things he's saying with the scriptures. Lord willing, he's edifying.
A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build generations. What's up, guys? John here. What the local governments across the country are doing, alongside Zillow and, of course, big insurance companies, is going to reshape and change the landscape of being a homeowner all throughout the country.
The way we buy and sell homes is changing because of climate change.
Zillow recently announced it's adding climate risk data to its property listings. It's just the latest website to do so.
As the cost of living continues to explode and wages soften, Americans have very little option but to borrow.
Buy now, pay later loans have been in use for big ticket items for years. A growing number of American consumers are using the payment method for everyday items.
And that being said, homeowners sitting on a record level of accessible home equity. Withdrawals from home equity lines of credit during the first 3 months of 2025 reached the highest first quarter level in 17 years. So people are borrowing at levels that we haven't seen since the great financial crisis, and thinking that if they borrow this money, they'll be able to get out of the storm, not realizing that the storm is ahead of us and not behind us. In the very near future, the next year or so, we will see millions of people walking away from their properties as they realize the cost of owning this property and managing this property is far more expensive than simply renting.
And that's the thing. Now the thing is, renting is expensive. So, I was considering trying to, because home ownership, mortgage is cheaper, you know what I mean? Depending on the neighborhood you buy the property in and whatnot. You know, again, I pay almost $1,000 for a 1-bedroom in the ghetto. But if he's saying this, you know, and it's funny because I used to put his videos in the group chat. I've seen other brothers, you know, utilize his videos. But it's funny because I literally used to put him in the chat, and there was a particular brother that used to watch him. He told me that for a fact. You know, he's like, I put him on to him. This dude ended up moving to Cleveland because the thing is, I don't think he considers himself an economist, but he does know certain things about the markets and trends. So his idea is he thinking that he gonna come here because the properties in Cleveland are a lot cheaper. That's why you had a lot of people move from New York and Chicago and whatnot and go to places like Texas, or move from Florida and go to places like Texas because, you know, the price of living is not as expensive. You know. But, you know, what did that devil say? You will own nothing to be happy. What have people been doing recently? They've been taking back their cars and letting them repossess them cars. I just saw an article. They said it's like 3,000 cars left on a tanker out in the sea. So that's why I read 2 Ezra chapter 16. You know, we own nothing here. And you got to be ready to walk away from everything. You know, I was watching the Elder's video. He was like, sometimes you got to say, fuck that bitch and leave that bitch alone. You know, that's the spirit. Sometimes you got to just walk away from that bitch. Bob, you know. Lord, the elder said you can't let people like just treat you any kind of way. Anybody. Sometimes, you know, he said you got sometimes, you know, how women jumping from rod to rod instead of letting themselves heal. True healing comes from isolation. And he's absolutely right about that. No, at the end of the day, all things are going to work out and play out the way they're meant to. So if you are of the elect, you're not going to bug out, even if you're going to feel like, even if you're feeling like you're going to bug out. If you're the elect, you literally are going to, you know, have the spirit to make it through and not, you know, throw in the towel or give up or turn your back on your Yahweh Shem Yahushua. You know, it's a brother just did a video about that. His title was, when offense comes, are you going to put down your garment? And, you know, it reminded me of myself because he was so secure in the fact of he might have to give up the ghost. And you got to wrap your mind around that because you got to think about it. You know, I don't want to be the pessimist or, the guy with the dark cloud over his head, but, you know, I'm a realist to a lot of things. Everybody, even the elect is going to be put to death. Some elect is going to die. That's how they, you know, they're just going to be risen first. You know, everybody's not just going to make it through all the things and be beamed up. You're going to go through, and your lot is what the Lord has it set up to be. And like that brother said, he made a statement. He said, and death is a form of deliverance as well. So I guess I ain't as bugged out as I come across, huh? No, I'm so tired of this. Because who will want to live here? And they like I said, and the Lord's setting it up where either you going to bow down or bend over to this fucking devil, or you going to be ran over. But the elect is going to stand boldly against that tank, against that dragon, against that devil, against his war machine. You know, you watching right now the Northern Kingdom being persecuted. And think about it. They not persecuting no other. When they had that border wide open, everybody was coming in. So why the fuck now are you just only going after the Northern Kingdom? Because they know who Israel is.
There's a twist at how this is all likely going to work out. In this video, I'm going to break it down and show you what's going on.
That's all I want because, again, in his mindset, you know, he a carnal individual, you know, because he's looking at the trend, oh yeah, I'm going to make money. He's not seeing that pretty much everything's going to go digital and cashless. Or maybe he does, I don't know. You know, I watch a guy named Johnny Bravo, and, you know, he's an actor in my opinion. I'm reading his spirit. You know, he's sitting up there, he brings out a lot of news, but he say little shit too. He do little shit, you know. Because you got to remember, they utilize the internet and TV to talk amongst themselves as well. You got a lot of insiders. I forgot the project, what's that, Project Mockingbird, or I forgot what it's called, or Project Zypher. Well, brother put me onto it though. The brother that I put onto John Williams put me onto that. Where pretty much you got people that set up to collect data and disinformation artists. You know, that's why a lot of those people with channels be up there like type of 1 if you believe in this or type of 2 if you believe that. Like, why are you doing that? To basically label you. So the point of the lesson is you might very well soon have to give up your home. And that's why the scripture says, be as pilgrims on the earth. This is the book of Matthew chapter 24. You know, we about to suffer for this truth. It says, it's the book of Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3, and it says, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So we see in the beginning of the persecution against the northern kingdom, and you know, versus the northern kingdom, and it's always worse with the southern. You know, we seeing, you know, the technology being implemented. We seeing what they was doing in the UK as far as following social media posts and pretty much building cases off of that type shit. Like, what, you know, you just pretty much recently had somebody threaten to assassinate DJ Trump. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they gathered that information from social media. So how much more so brothers that's putting in the work? Verse 9, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then many shall be offended. But like I said again, the brother just did a video about that. You know, what shall you do when offense arises? Will you put down your garment? The elect won't, no matter what the offense is. The scriptures talk about, let no man take your crown. The Lord is so cold. Think about this. That's why I wasn't really shocked or surprised. You know, the Lord got away. The Lord cold. He gave Abraham and Sarah a child that they never expected, and then said, now kill it, or kill him. All to test him. So how much more so are we about to be tested? And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall arise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity, or the sin upon sin, shall abound, and the love of many shall wax cold. We know that word cold is psycho in the Greek, and you about to see a lot of psycho shit. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And we watching the end manifest because of the words we're speaking, because the Lord said, I'm declaring the end from the beginning. So it was already written in the book, and that's why we know the times we're living in. So it's a beautiful, powerful weapon to have your eyes open to this truth. You know, I think yesterday brother did a video talking about don't take for granted the power of the Bible, roughly paraphrased. So like, I not mean to do that. So yeah, be prepared to lose things. Maybe very well may you have to lose your life. You know, like I said, I was watching a video about an elder. He said you might have to cut that bitch off. You know, it's the book of Hebrews chapter 11. Through faith also Sarah herself. No, I'm gonna start up. Hebrews 11 and verse 9. By faith, I'm gonna start up. Hebrews 11 and 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. You know, you gotta remember, Abraham left his father's household, left the land, not knowing where he's going, just having faith. Faith is a powerful tool, and the Lord rewards faith. That's probably why that brother made that video about you got believers that still lack faith. What are you willing to give up for Yahweh Shem Yahushua? By faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which had foundations, whose builder and maker is the Most High, which is the kingdom. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as in the stars of the sky, in multitude, and as the sand which is by the sea, short in number. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded on them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. Now, I don't know why it's written different, because that's the KJV, but I remember it being written, for here have we no continuous city, but we seek one to come, which is the kingdom. Verse 15, and truly if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is an heavenly. Therefore, wherefore the Most High is not ashamed to be called their power, for he hath prepared for them a city, which is the kingdom. So, the elect will be willing to give up everything they have over here, even their very lives, because it's going to be pretty much ordained and expected of some individuals. Not everybody, but, that's written for certain individuals. So I'm going to end it with this. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, chapter 2 and verse 6. Believe in him and he will help thee. Even if you set up to basically, and like I said again, it was spiritual that brother did that video, because he was in a certain spirit. He was content in the knowledge of he may have to give up the ghost. He said the statement that I feel. He said, I hate my fucking life, and I know certain brothers that's on the comment board feel the same way. When you see the direction this place going and realize that you truly have no power, and the way that they about to set up this wicked ass place, you're going to have to be a loyalist. You ain't going to own nothing. You ain't going to be able to control nothing, have no say-so on nothing. And if they feel you against, if you just not a perfect puppet, an idiot, yeah, you're going to be persecuted and pretty much taken out the way. So, yeah, Lord, dying in the faith would be better than living. What's the scriptures talk about? I mean, it's a saying. It said, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, roughly paraphrase. Believe in him, he will help thee, order thy way aright, and trust in him. Ye that fear the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, wait for his mercy, and go not aside, lest he fall. Ye that fear the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, believe in him, and your reward shall not fail. The Lord loves and rewards true faith. Ye that fear the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, hope for good and for everlasting joy and mercy. Verse 10, look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any trust in the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, and was confounded, or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? Read Hebrews 11. And they basically didn't see the kingdom like that. But they still was locked in and had faith. We seeing the thing. The scriptures talk about many have desired to see these things and wasn't able. But we see these things. So how much more are we blessed? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? The Lord has never despised or forsaken anybody that called upon him. Verse 11. For the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is full of compassion and mercy, long-suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins and saveth in time of affliction. Like I said, who was that? Stephen, that was stoned to death? But the Lord allowed him to look on his face at the end. He probably felt no pain or nothing. When you take time to think about the disciples, they all died willingly. Now again, everybody's not going to have to give up the ghost. But you got to prepare your mind for that. I was listening to an elder. He said that you might know how to make fire and clean water, but have you prepared to, you might have to suffer in a fucking concentration camp? You might get your children and your family pulled away from you? Do you understand what you involved in, Jake? Because pain and suffering tends to take that goofy ass spirit out of you. Like that movie 5 Heartbeats. They was talking about Robert Thompson's character. He said he's going to be a great writer once he has suffered more. And the beginning of his suffering was when he found out his brother was fucking the woman he loved. Verse 12, woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinners that goeth 2 ways. And the sinner that goeth 2 ways. You know, a double-minded man. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. You know, and I don't know exactly what that brother meant by that. You know, you got some that believe but still lack faith. But, you know, faith and works is the key factor in this. You want to be caught doing when the Lord returns. Because we in the time of judgment. And your only hedge of protection is, you know, your faith, belief, hope, trust, confidence in the name and the Heavenly Father and the power. Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. So if you're so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole Indian, West Indian, Haitian, I implore you to repent, turn back, and beg for forgiveness to your power, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, because death is coming on swift wings to Babylon the Great, aka America. So with that, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Call Loyam La Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Racha HaKodash, Yahweh meaning he is, he exists, or he to be, Ba'ashim, Ba'az in, Haz Hashem his name, Yahweh Shai meaning he saves, or he deliver, true names of the Most High God and the Son, who you people ignorantly call God and Jesus Christ, whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, or you will be destroyed with that. I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Call Loyam La Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai. Shalom, shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, and Mawat La Babal. Soon. Shalom.